I am Matt McClure with agentandadvisor.com, and I am here with Robert Bache, also known as Medicare Bob. He is the founder of Senior Healthcare Direct. Bob, how's it going?
I'm doing well, getting ready for the annual enrollment period. So it is that time of year.
Busy, busy time. Well, and I know that there's not only this time of the year, but all year long, a lot to think about when you are either starting a Medicare business, building it, or just going about the day-to-day business. So, talk about building your Medicare business, if you will. And instead of those 100 things, we could literally be here like for a month talking about them. Maybe run us through, I don't know, like 5 tips that you might have for people to build their business.
Yeah, no, we'll keep it very high level. If I narrow it down to five, I would say the first tip is, do your due diligence and start documenting your processes. If you're looking at getting into the Medicare space, you've really got to dive in, understand the product, understand the need for it. That's a great emerging market, as we know. Baby boomers are the largest demographic in U.S. history. If you're a financial advisor, your customers are also aging into Medicare, already on Medicare. So if you're not helping them with Medicare or pointing them in the right direction, they're going to get help from somewhere, and you're at risk that they're going to get help from somewhere that can also do some of the services that you're doing as a financial advisor. So once you get into the business and you realize that you should be in the business, doing your due diligence, then once you start opening up and getting into it, you need to document your systems and processes. That way, when you do go to scale your agency, you understand how to do an onboarding call, document it. Working with lead vendors, document how you measure them and have vendor scorecards. So, you just want to document everything you're doing. That way, you can scale easier with a team. Yeah. And then I would say the second tip is, and this is a big one, is you got to understand the finances of the Medicare business. You got to understand cost per acquisition versus lifetime value. So if you need some places to look for lifetime value, you have the publicly traded companies out there, SelectQuote, eHealth, GoHealth. They will document what they value as a Medicare lifetime value policy. You need to understand that there's a different lifetime value for a Medicare supplement plan versus a Medicare Advantage plan. You have to understand that you have an acquisition cost target, and you want to monitor those targets. If you're scaling the business, it's really tough to do if you're trying to scale on your cost per acquisition on first year commission. So let me go into that a little bit more. So when I say cost per acquisition, there's really two measurements that you need to combine into one, which is your total cost per acquisition. There's your marketing cost per acquisition, and then what I call your fixed cost CPA, or cost per acquisition. So your marketing CPA is how much money did you spend in marketing, and then you track that and you divide that by how many sales you got. And then you have your fixed cost, which is everything excluding marketing. So if you have telephony costs, if you have CRM costs, if you have payroll, anything that's included in acquiring that customer that's not marketing. So then you monitor your CPA on the marketing side and your fixed cost side, join them together, and that's your total CPA. So for example, we target we have about 100 agents right now. We target this time of year out of annual enrollment an $800 acquisition cost. So we're targeting a 275 marketing CPA, and then the rest we have in fixed costs. Now, for those of you that understand Medicare, the average commission for the first year is $350 to $450. So you're wondering, well, how are you targeting an $800 all-in acquisition cost to get $450? Well, that's the $450. That's your first year commissions. Medicare pays residuals. Medicare supplement plans typically pay full commission rate for 7 years, and Medicare Advantage pays lifetime renewals. So the reason that we're successful scaling the business for the past 10 years is we've always recognized that the first year commission is not what we call the LTV, the lifetime value. We attribute a lifetime value. A lot of people for the Medicare supplement space will use like $1,250. That's what we use. And then for Medicare Advantage, we use around $1,000. So we monitor our acquisition costs. So if you're going to spend, $800 to make $1,250, that's a pretty good return, especially when you take into account that out of annual enrollment, we're targeting $800. During annual enrollment, your conversion rates increase, your costs decrease, your lead costs primarily decrease. And then also because you're doing more sales, you're benefiting from the economies of scale. So your fixed costs decrease as well with the higher conversion. So we will target a $500 acquisition cost during annual enrollment. Plus, it's, in this business, you're going to do about 35% of your business during annual enrollment. So understanding your cost per acquisition, lifetime value is very important. Understanding the seasonality of the business and understanding that you're not trying to make money on the first year commission. If you're looking at scaling a Medicare business, it's really important that you understand the cost per acquisition and then also the lifetime value of the product, adding ancillary products, Part D stuff, all that adds in to the lifetime value. So if you're getting into this business or you're looking to scale the business, you really need to have an in-depth understanding of your CPAs and your LTVs. And then I would say this is my third tip is building a leadership team. This is something I wish I would have done earlier. So if you're, everyone's in a different situation. Sometimes, you and one or two other people decide to open up an agency, and maybe that is your leadership team. You have a solid 3-pillar arrangement, or maybe you have a business partner, and that's what you're starting off with, the leadership team there. However, I started my agency on my own. So I didn't really have a leadership team or a partner. I was building manager base, but I was primarily focused on agents selling. And then I got into more customer care and then QA as I scaled. But something I wish I would have done sooner is really promoted some of my talent into a leadership role sooner. At the time, it was tough because some of my top producers, or my top customer care people, they were producing. And so there's always that risk that if you take them off the phones, like your top agent, and you make them a manager or a director, when you first start, it feels like you're taking 2 steps back because you might miss out on their production. But what I've learned is it's well worth it to have that strong leadership team and have that bench behind you, because, you take that for me, my top agent for 5 years was David Manaya, and he's now our VP of sales. And I have no doubt that if I would have done that a couple of years sooner, we would have a lot more production even now, because he just does such a great job. Now, not every top producer is going to be a great leader. So, you do need to make that decision very cautiously, and you have to be very smart when you make that decision. But I would say, just to button up this point, is don't fear losing out on that production. Your leadership team is an investment that will pay dividends if you choose wisely. And then I would say the fourth tip, and if you're in Medicare, it's very important, especially for Part D and Medicare Advantage, is you have to understand compliance. And this is where you should lean on your FMO. AmeriLife, we have a robust compliance team that every couple of weeks releases updates. There's CMS. The only thing constant with CMS, which is Medicare, is change and compliance change. I mean, just in the last couple of years, we've seen Plan F have changes where now nobody over 65 can purchase it as of January 1st, 2020. We're seeing compliance changes effective just this October, where now all phone calls must be recorded, not just for call centers, but for all agents. We're seeing now you have to have an SMID number on your marketing materials, even if you're purchasing leads. Agents are considered TPMOs, third-party marketing organizations. So CMS updated that definition. So you have to understand the compliance, especially if you're going to be in Medicare Advantage and Part D. And then I would say my final tip, just limited on time here, is really networking. Get in the room. The barrier of entry of getting with top producers in this industry is there's no barrier of entry. It's easier now than ever to get with people like myself, other successful agency owners that have been in the business a long time and built successful agencies. When I first started, you had to be a top producer to get in the room with other top producers. But now with social media groups, Facebook groups, conferences, you can get in the room. Sometimes it's free to get in the room with other top producers in the groups. Most of the time, if I think that it's worth paying a little bit of money to spend some time with some top producers. And you might look at that, I got to spend money to be consulted by this person, and maybe that's a little bit intimidating for you. But I can tell you and share with you that, for me going to the top producer trips, it was nice being in Europe or, in the Caribbean, having a good time, or Hawaii. But the most valuable part was at the bar talking about business. And those trips and learning what I took away and sharing what I learned saved myself and other people in the industry many years. So you can spend a little bit of money to fast track your learning by 3, 5, 6 years. So I would say get in the room, network, work with other top producers. If it costs a little bit of money to do that, it's well worth the investment. And I know we're limited time here, Matt, but I would say if you're in the business looking to scale Medicare business, those are my five tips.
Well, that's great. Medicare Bob, Robert Bache, as he is known on his birth certificate, but everybody knows him by Medicare Bob. Bob, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to really share some great tips. I really do appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.